Well, let's get this party crack-a-lacking. So if you haven't started oh, and I see the red light is recording. So, all right. Well, this is good stuff. This is actually number 3 of new agent training. And it doesn't matter if you're this is your first one, because we do have a newbie. Um, it doesn't matter if it's your first one or not. You just pick up and it just keeps going. And so this one is on emotional management. And my goal is to get through a little bit that piece and then just open it up to whatever things that may be pressing to you guys that you want to discuss. Okay. And so since we do have a person, this is their first time on this call. I can't remember if we have 2 or 1, but we're going to find out. But so what I want to do is want to do introductions. And one of the introduction things you're going to do is you're going to share your name, your family, whatever that looks like, your family structure, where you live, and one time that you were a badass in your life, where you felt like that was pretty badass of me. Okay. And it doesn't matter if that moment was last week or if it was when you were in kindergarten. Like, I don't care. We just want to know. And so if this is not your first one, you have already told us about your badassery before. So we just want to hear from the new ones who have not got to share that before. So we're going to do the introductions. And then the whole purpose and intention of this group, just so you know, is for we can shut off all the noise of what's going on with like the Facebook group, um, like our regular monthly agent meeting, like all the other things, because sometimes they're just some people are talking about issues that don't pertain to you. You're like, I'm brand new and I haven't gotten to that yet. Like, so this is your meeting. This is your time. And the other intention of that is to create community so that you guys can kind of get to know each other a little bit with fellow people. Um, we are going to be saying farewell to Jamie and Steph. This is their third one. Not like farewell right now, like don't leave us. But this is their third one. And so now they're graduating, if you will, off into what we call the new-ish group, where that group is a group of agents that are at least 3 months into the business, all the way up to sometimes 2 years into the business. And so they will meet with them. But if this is your first time, please tell us your name, what your family like is consist of, where you live, and your badass moment. Please take it away.
Is that new pointed at only me? Is that me?
I did not, Natanya. Would this be yours too? We have 2 of you, right?
Did mine already.
Did you? Okay, then yes.
Sorry, Tyler.
Sir?
Yep, it's just you.
Okay.
Oh, you're fine. You are
Just
on,
verifying.
sir.
So my name is Tyler Willis. Nice to meet you guys I haven't yet met. My family structure, I live in a 1-bedroom apartment with my dog. Very close to my mom and my sister who live on the north side. I live downtown right off Mass Ave at Circa Apartments, if you guys are familiar at all.
What's your
And then
dog's name?
her name is Zola.
Oh, we love Zola
Yeah.
already. Go ahead.
Yeah, she looks very familiar to I cannot remember her name, but that has the new puppy. She had the puppy when I was in the office like a week or 2 ago.
It's right
Brittany, who has Remy.
Brittany. Okay. Oh.
Yeah, Remy looks like Zola 4 years ago, basically. And then felt like a badass. I was kind of hoping somebody else would go before me to give me a little bit of an idea what you guys are looking for here. Felt like a badass. I mean, I guess the one story I could tell, a project that we're working on right now, doing the demo. So we have a duplex that's almost 3,000 square feet. And me and my partners were thinking about, all the different people we were going to hire to accomplish the demo. And one of my buddies was like, why would you guys hire someone? You can do it yourself. And so I walked outside and took a phone call. Next thing I know, I hear a sledgehammer going through the wall in the kitchen. And so I run in like, oh my goodness, what are you guys doing? And 3 weeks later, we had the entire place demolished down to the studs. and ready for construction. So you don't know what you can do until you start, I guess.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that in your badass moment, someone kind of led you to it and then you didn't resist. You followed it and you were like, I'm owning this now. Like now it is a
Absolutely.
story I'm telling people. So
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
love that. So Tyler, I'm going to say to you what I've told the rest of the ladies when they've shared their moments. And that is, if you did it before, you can do it again. Just meaning if you've been a badass before, the same skill, the same things it took you to do that, which was doing it afraid. You weren't really sure, but you went on ahead and did it. And you
Mhm.
had that moment afterwards. That is the same skills that you're going to use to be a badass in real estate. So you already own and possess it, buddy. So own it.
Awesome. Yeah.
So awesome, Tyler. Thanks for letting us get to know you. Um, I want to do recognition too. So every month that we do this, we do a little bit of recognition because I think it's important for us to kind of get to recognize some of the things that we're doing. And so, first of all, for being on the call, you get recognition. So you are here. Other people that have listened to the recording, that's cool, but you are here. Like you've showed up right now for what dealing with whatever you had to deal with. And wait a minute, you get extra snaps when your camera's on. So all of you have your cameras on. I love it. And so the next thing I want to recognize is if you have signed up for your, hey, is that Austin? Hi, Austin. Okay, so Austin, you are in there now. So has anyone, if you have started your post-licensing course, like you've at least signed up for it or whatever, I want to see some hands in the air if that's you. Keep your hand up. Awesome. Wait a minute. And now if you have finished the course, keep your hand up. Okay, that's okay. That's okay. Rosie's like, whoa, wait a minute. Awesome. That is awesome. I love that. I love that. So tell me if you have started your master list of contacts. Hands up in the air, please. Hands up. Yes, yes. Keep your hands up if you have at least 50 names. I don't care if you have numbers and all that. If you have at least 50 names on that list. Ooh, would it be inappropriate if I just broke out in a complete, like, amazing Fortnite dance? Would that be?
That would be so dope. I'm here
Some
for
of you
it.
might not know what that is, but I'm just saying, like, I know all the dances on Fortnite, okay? And so if you have more than 50, put your hand up. I want to see you. Shut up. Yes. And if you've mailed out any of your contact, like postcards, like you've got some mailed out, keep those hands up. I'm gonna have to go old school for you on this one. So that is awesome, you guys. I'm proud. My last one, if you have actually pinned in a sale and or had an actual closing, let's see your hands go up. Okay, we're going to name her the queen of the day right now. Steph Gray is the queen. Yes, mama, take it. You may never get called a queen again, so own that today, okay? Because you are our queen today, so thank you. Can you share really quick, Steph, just something, one quick thing that you would say, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, that you would say, one of the most positive aha things that comes to mind when you think about having taken your client from, okay, this is a person who's interested, to now having closed and like, I'm actually going to get paid for this work. What would be one aha or one share you would want to make to everybody?
Yeah, I think, and we kind of talked about this, so and we'll probably talk about it Friday, so without going like too hard, but I would say it fits my personality to be the person that's like, I'm going to get anything done at any time for you. And also understanding like my worth in that scenario and what I'm working towards. Cause especially with my listing, it was a 5-month, like long process. So in like breaking down what my time of actually being there and doing things is worth, versus like getting that commission check at the end. You know, looking back on it, I'm really proud of, like, we talked about this, the rate and such, but I was like looking at it compared to like my event work. And I was like, honestly, I would have charged way more in my event work for like the hourly work I had done.
Mhm.
So just managing like what the worth of what you're actually bringing to the table is, even if you're new.
I love, oh, thank you for that. I love that because that is one of the things. And actually, since Steph said that, I'm just going to give you that little, I'm going to just go ahead and continue on that before I get into the emotional, because that was one of the things I wanted to share with you. And that is, how do we get paid? Like, how do we make sure we get paid? So what Steph is letting you know is, having had a closing, because how many of you know you would love to have a client pinned it, like, woo, like, right, that's amazing. And then to get have that closing, she is saying that she realizes, new or not, she brings worth and value, and to not cut yourself off just being so desperate, like, I just want to get a listing, that you sell your soul for nothing. Does that make sense? And so thank you for that, Steph. So how we get paid, I think I had this conversation with Austin. He was the last one I had it with, that I said, you know what, I want to make sure all the agents, as well as especially the brand new agents, know how you get paid. And so you all have been in Matrix, right? In the MyBoard, right? In the system. If you have further questions, please don't say, oh, I'm gonna remember later. Just make a note, or you can even text in the chat. Soon as we get off, me and you can hop on and have a quick little conversation and make sure, you guys, it does me no good to do all this fun, all that kind of good stuff. But if you're walking away and you're like, I didn't get that, right? And if you don't want to say it in front of everybody, that is fine, but make sure you let me know that, okay? So how we get paid, is everybody familiar with BAC? Have you seen that? Like, if you're like, I don't even know what that means, just put your hand up for me. So everybody knows what that is. Okay, that's what you get paid for. So what happens is, when you go online into Matrix and you see a listing, whatever they put on there for the BAC, that is your contract to get paid. Did you guys know that? That listing
Just clarifying, that's buyer's agent commission, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
So
Thank
when
you.
you're working with the buyer, that listing agent is letting you know, hey, this is my contract, my agreement with you, that this is what I'm willing to pay you, right? For a buyer that closes, right? And so whenever you don't have that, I don't care what the reason is, or you don't see it, I want you to understand, you do not have a contract to get paid. You with me? Now I'm going to explain some things, because you're probably like, why would we not have that? I'm going to give you some explanations why you wouldn't have that. Number one, maybe you're working with somebody in Bloomington or Fort Wayne or Maryville, or showing a house somewhere, and you don't, so they're outside of our MyBoard, our listing area. You need to get the listing sheet. You need to get a compensation agreement with that agent, saying that they're going to pay you, because you don't have access to a contract, right? Because you don't have access to their listing, their sheet or whatever. There's, I think, 3 or 4 different MLSs, if you will, listing services within the state of Indiana. So everybody in the state of Indiana is not in MyBoard, just so you know. So you don't have access to all the listings in the state. I don't know if you guys knew that, but we don't. So if someone's wanting to go outside of our area, that would be one of those things where, even if it's listed and they showed you something off realtor.com, you need to make sure before you even show that you have a compensation agreement with that listing agent. Does that make sense? You guys with me? The other common one would be a for sale by owner. Obviously, you don't have an agreement. So before you even show anything, you want to make sure you get a compensation agreement. Don't worry, you can find out, like, what is a compensation agreement? Or if you're looking up on Dotloop or something, you can ask, me or Michelle, whatever, when they're showing, where's the compensation agreement? But there is an agreement, there is an actual contract that you can have for that specific thing. The last thing I would say, you guys want to be careful with rentals. We do a lot of rentals when we're new, and you should do them. If they're not in my board and they're not in there, then you do not have a compensation agreement. That doesn't mean you can't get paid, but you want to work that stuff out before you start showing people rentals and stuff like that. Okay? Does that make sense? Yes, Steph.
So for rentals, usually it's like $100, right? Or like for
It
it's
might,
low.
it varies.
So you're saying that you would then, if a couple or person or whoever says, I need help finding a rental, you can say, yes, I can find it. But if it's not listed, you will pay me $100 or whatever.
That is perfect. And so even with that, before you take them out, what you would want to do is get a buyer agency agreement with that person, to let them know that this is the chart, what I charge for that service. And if the listing agent is paying it, great. But if they're not, then you're going to be responsible. So you want to get that figured out up at the top, because that's what happened. That's what my board's doing on your behalf. Before you show a home, you already know you're good, right? So when you're doing something outside of my board, you want to make sure you get that established early. And if you're working with a renter, that's a really good idea that you may want to decide, do I want to say that I charge $200? And then if the listing agent is willing to pay $100, then the buyer understands that they would have to pay me that other $100. Does that make sense? So that's something you can do. And you can get into those different scenarios with me separately. Like if you were asking, Crystal, is this too much or is this a good idea? But what I want you to get before I switch is to make sure you understand that if you do not have it on the listing agreement, you do not have a compensation for payment. I mean, agreement for compensation. Does that make sense? We all good on that? Awesome. Okay. Even Austin, you good on that? Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about emotional management a little bit here. And so I want to talk about a little bit about how you start things. First of all, how do you start your day? So when you're self-employed, and especially in this type of business, how many of you realize that our emotions can be all over the place, right? Because let me describe a typical, this could totally happen, day of you get a phone call and they're like, you know what? I would love to work with you. I want you, so-and-so told me about you and I'm looking for a home. Can I work with you? And you're like, could you hold on one second? You're like, oh my God, thank you. And then, yes, I will be glad to do that, right? Like that is like, yes, like it dropped in my lap. Then like an hour later, you may get a call that the home that you had pending and you had already like started planning how you're going to spend that money. And they call you back and say, guess what? On the inspection, like they found mold and the whole roof needs to be replaced. And the seller doesn't have the ability to do that. And this is like into it, like you're so close, right? Like your emotions were so high, right? But now it's like, are you freaking kidding? Right? Like this is a normal thing that can happen. And so this business gives us opportunities to be up and down all the time, right? And so I want to talk a little bit about how you controlling what you can control, and that is how you start your day. I'm not into telling people what to do and what not to do, but I want to tell you as someone who I think I'm pretty qualified on being able to give a little bit of advice on that. And I'll tell you why, even outside of real estate, as a person who, while I was pregnant with my wonderful son, who I just love so much, I was sick all the time. Like literally I was sick and I had a team of doctors that I had to see all the time. It was like horrible. And we knew I would probably go in a little early, but he was born 3 months early. And I started the day off pretty amazing. I was selling Mary Kay at the time. I had all my orders lined up. I had my Mary Kay smock on because that's just who I am. I'm always dressed ready for opportunity in the morning. I do not wait for someone to call me or see what's on my schedule. My face is done. I'm ready. And that's how I boss up for the past years, right? I'm ready for opportunities to knock on the door. I didn't know that opportunity was going to be knocking, but I'm out. I got my day planned. My people know that I'm coming. I stopped by the doctor to do my doctor's appointment, and she tells me, no, we're gonna have to admit you. And I'm like, can I do one more run before? Because like I'm totally clueless. Like I am like in driver mode. And she's like, Crystal, no. And so fast forward, they admit me into the hospital, and we go from there to I almost died on Super Bowl. My family was having a Super Bowl party in my hotel. I'm at my hotel, and that's what it felt like in my hospital room, right? And because my kidneys and organs, my organs were shutting down. So we have my son early, 3 months early. And as you can imagine, my whole like that was like very weird. So, how do you kind of manage that emotion of like what is going on? So here's a couple of things that I would tell you. Number one, I work off of a to-do list all the time. It's so important. All the time. All the time. And when I was in the hospital for weeks, he had to be in there for 5 weeks, but I had to be in there for a week or two. One of the things that would keep me, and of course I was in there with him, you know, in the NICU, but one of the things that would help to keep my emotions where they needed to be is my list. Like I just knew I couldn't give a lot of energy to a lot of things, but I was just like, you know what? If I can just find an hour to just be on, this is the stuff I got to get done. You guys, a contact list the night before, like my day was prepared and planned and ready. I was ready for that day because I prepared for it the night before, right? I don't wait for the day before. So having that list, that is a big thing. Also, when I had to delegate things, guess what things got delegated? The things that were on my list that I absolutely could not do. So my emotions that I've learned in sale going up and down are more like this because I have really high highs and I've had life has dealt me some really low lows, right? And so to be able to stay on that because we work with people, right? It's not my client's responsibility, right, to feel sorry and not get the service they need from me, right? I mean, they're human and they get I'm human, but at the end of the day, after this catastrophe is over, I still need to be able to eat and work, right? And have a business. And so controlling the emotions is such a big deal. And so how you start the day. So you never know what that phone call is going to be. So I want you guys to take some time today, this week. Just please make it a priority. You're like, how do I start? Am I starting with checking my phone? Like, is that the first thing that I grab my phone on the side of my bed? It should not. Because guess what? What if that email, when you check your phone, is someone deciding they're going with someone else? Or that they just got their inspection report or whatever it is. And then guess what? That's how your day's starting, right? Like, damn, like who needs to start that way, right? And so before that, putting aside some time to be able to you control what does this day look like? How am I going to start it? I'm not going to get into if you need to do affirmations, all that. You do whatever your thing is. If it means dancing around half dressed with your favorite song on in the morning, if that's what gets you going and get your blood flowing, you beating on your chest, whatever your thing is, you do that in the morning. But what I ask you not to do is do this. That is not the way to start because you're giving your clients and your business control over how your emotions start for the day, right? Have you ever heard people say that, like, oh man, I just knew this was going to be a bad day? Like, I've never understood that. Like, I get why they say that, but I've never been that person. Like, you mean you're going to give control of your whole day off of something that happened this morning, right? So that's the first thing. Like the night before, your day can start the night before. So like if you're having a good night, you can have an even greater morning, right? So having that to-do list and knowing what you need to do. Number two, making sure you're not starting your day off looking at this thing, but starting your day off with something positive. Somebody, if anyone, and if you don't, that's okay. Does anybody have a ritual or something they like to do in the morning that that they would like to share? Natanya, yes.
You're muted, Natanya.
You're muted.
Am I better?
There you go.
It's Bosley and I's time. Every morning we wake up early, we go downstairs, we snuggle, I drink my cup of coffee, he gets a massage, and we just do each other. And he just looks at me and I get to give him all, and Bosley's my dog, if anybody doesn't know. Tyler's like, ew. It is not my husband. And we just snuggle and we just, it's a love fest for about 45 minutes. I wake up early and that's how I start every single morning. He loves it and I love it. And if I forget, he's like, Mama, let's go. It's love time.
I love it. I love it. I like that because we all know, I mean, that's why dogs are like big emotional support animals, right? Like that love, getting that, and Bosley can't talk, so that makes it even better. Like, you know, so that's like, yes. So my favorite thing is doing gratitudes. I've learned, like I said, I've got hit with some pretty hard blows over the last several years of while being in sales. And so one of the things I found, the greatest thing I found, the gift I could give myself is choosing to start my day in gratitude. So I journal. It's what I teach my kids to do. Just getting a little bit of time in doing a little gratitude journal because I want to be grateful. Because sometimes, like I said, well, it's not sometimes. I want to leave you with this thought, and I want you to write this down. What you focus on grows. What you focus on grows. What you focus on grows is so important with emotional management. What you focus on grows. And my little example for that for all of you is if you decided you wanted an orange car, this orange Mustang or whatever, I don't know, you're just like, oh, nobody has that. That is amazing. What's going to happen once you get that orange car? You're going to see a lot more of them, aren't you? Because now you're focusing on that, right? And so if you start your day with that email that's crappy and you're like, you know, you're dropping the bombs, the F-bombs, all that, guess what's probably going to happen the rest of the day? More opportunities for you to drop the F-bomb, right? Because you are focusing on that. So how you choose to focus and start your morning is so important enough that I'm willing to spend that much time. I really hope I'm inside your heart and minds, and I hope my voice is annoying and aggravating enough that you're like, oh yeah, I forgot she said that, right? Because it really was a life changer and a game changer for me, period. So what you focus on, it grows. So just remember that. How you start your communication is another thing I want to talk about, like your emails, your phone calls, getting your in-person, whatever you're doing to communicate with your clients, how you start that is very important. And so here's an example, like if you're like, oh, I got to send her this email, I know she's going to be pissed, like that. I know it sounds a little crazy, but I've trained my brain long enough. I just don't think I'm like that weird person that's like, you know what? I'm pretty sure she'll understand this. And although she may have not given me any reason to think that she's understandable, that is just where I'm going with this. That's what I'm expecting. That's what I'm putting out there. It's just because your energy comes through with that. Does that make sense? Like they can feel that. And I want you to know, because we're in a people-based business, people they don't always remember what you said, but they remember how you make them feel. Does that make sense? You guys have had an experience, right, where you're like, God, I don't know, I just really like that guy. Like he was on it. And somebody might ask you, so what all things did he say? Like, I don't even remember all of it, but like he just, like, we vibe, we connected, right? That it happens to us all the time. I'm not telling you don't have your stuff together and don't get your words together. But what I do want you to understand is your energy and your connection level makes a big difference. And so how you start that off and how you leave the last one. So when we don't take a mental check of where our emotions are. So let's say Tyler is coming off of a crappy conversation with some other client, right? And it's just like, ugh. If he doesn't check himself before he gets into the next one, it's like that. Sometimes that just follows you in, right? Like sometimes we can start expecting crap. We can be combative. It's like, I'm short. Does that make you guys with me? Because you haven't done a check to say, you know what, that was them. I'm going to compartmentalize. That was that client. That was that situation. It's done. Boom, we're here now. When you're talking with me or coaching or working with me, you will notice, and it's not because I'm being rude or it's not because I don't care. Please never think that. Sometimes you may talk about certain things and I will shift you to something else, right? And it's just, I'm doing it intentionally, very intentionally, because I feel like you've given enough energy to that thing, right? And we need to shift on to something else because the more you give that energy, the more it robs you. And so I want you to write this down that a pity party is the most expensive party you will ever throw yourself. And I throw some pretty darn elaborate parties, okay? And they can get pretty expensive. But the most expensive party you can ever throw yourself is a pity party because a pity party can rob you of your dreams, your goals, expectations, and opportunities, right? And so it's okay to vent. We're human, right? Austin, he's with me. He's like, yeah, it can be expensive. You vent, you get it out, and you move on because, and so here's what I want you to think of a conversation. So, for example, something happens with, I don't know, your last client, they just, for example, like I'll just use me, I'll throw myself under the bus. My closing, that was going to be Friday, got moved to today. And then we had to do it first thing in the morning, which threw the rest of my day kind of off. I can choose to do it every single appointment. I go, well, my morning got thrown off today. Da, 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 da. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things. It's like, you know what? I'm going to give myself a moment to say it and then it's done. Otherwise, what happens is you can just start to, like I explained to my first appointment, first person I had today, hey, this happened. But I was like, you know what? But let's move on. What's going on with you? Because if you're not careful, it can just keep going and it turns into negative conversation and you want to get into the details of it. So you're talking to your clients and you're telling them, and they're fine. They don't even have a problem with you venting, because that's not really who you should be venting to, by the way, but they're letting you do it. But what you're doing is your energy, you have exchanged your issue onto them. Does that make sense? And now how do you think you just left them kind of feeling? You feel better because you got it out, right? It's like, oh, I just wanted to get that off my chest. Well, thanks. So there's always an exchange of energies. That makes sense. And so be mindful and be careful. I just want you to kind of always be thinking like, you know what? I've already given enough energy to the fact that there was a traffic jam on 465 when I was driving this morning and it threw me off. But repeating, because you're reliving it, or how are you doing, Steph? Oh my God. Right. I'm going to share a little secret with you. When someone asks how you're doing, they really kind of don't want to know how you're doing. They just really want you to say, I'm doing well, thanks. Does that make sense? Find your people, whoever it is, that you can really tell how you're doing. But everybody else, just act like they didn't ask you that. Just, hey, I'm doing well, how are you? Right? I know that sounds so elementary, but I can't tell you how many times I see people doing it and it's like, no, this isn't the time. Like, no. I'm not to me. I'm just saying I see them doing it with other people. I'm like, no, because now your energy is just shifting and it's draining. So guess what? Now that I've said this to you, when I see you guys doing it, I'm like, how we doing? And you guys are gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm doing great, right? Okay. Does that make sense? Because it really does matter if you're not doing, but if you keep saying it long enough, do you feel like you will start to feel better instead of you keep reliving in the crap that happened this morning, right? It's like, so you guys with me? Steph, you really told on yourself. You were like, oh my God, I do that every day. No, just kidding. Steph, I love your face. I love
Crystal, I was laughing because I was like, the future social worker in me was like, tell everything. Feel it.
and the therapist to me is like, no, find your one or two people, tell them everything, tell everybody else nothing. Tell them how you want to feel, right? Because here's what can happen, and you think it's great. And I actually picked up a $400,000 client this way, and I don't want this to happen to you. you can gain the sympathy of your clients literally with your story and with your situation. But a lot of times you won't gain their loyalty and you won't gain their business or their referral. They'll feel sorry for you and they're like, oh my God. But in the back of their mind, but like, this is business though, and we hate to bother her. She's just got so much going on, and oh, it just seems like she's got a lot. Let us call someone else. So guess what? I was the person they called that was someone else, right? And I got the $400,000 sale when this other person, but they were able to tell me all of her issues and her problems. And I honestly felt like, God, I wish I could have coached her, like, and talked to her, because I hate to see that happening to anybody. Yeah, I benefited from it, but it can happen to any of us. That's not your client's job to take in your emotions and to feel sorry for you. Does that make sense? And so I'm not telling you you're not human, but that's just not the proper place that you should be venting and that they should be feeling, because they will feel sorry for you. But once again, it cannot work out the way you were hoping it would work out. Um, my last thing on my second to last thing on the emotion, the energy, is choose your energy. So when we how many know we can get tired doing this, right? You're dealing with all these different emotions, and then like you may be taking a sledgehammer. Tyler might be knocking out, like doing a full demolition, and he's got to go look amazing with these other people. And then this other person wants to see 10 houses, and like you're just all over, right? And then your dog or your kids, when your family, you get home, they actually want you to show up with some energy, right? And so it's like, oh my gosh. And so I'm curious, would anyone want to share, like, what do you do when you are dog tired? You're not in the best of mood, but you know you can't show up that way. And you've got to shift your energy real quick. Does anybody have anything that they use right now to just, just be like, okay, I gotta get my mind together. Anybody have anything they want to share on what they use? Natanya, you're muted. You're muted. There you go.
I learned things on the computer. No, I'm joking. I walk.
You walk. Okay. Kind of clear your mind. Okay. I like that. I like that. Anybody else have something? So
I mean, like some Beyonce always does it for me.
Beyonce?
I mean, right? Who runs the world?
Yeah, you do, girl. You do. I'm right up there with Rosie. It's music. Music, and to be honest with you, music has the same kind of effect on every human being. That's what it was created for, right? And so you can utilize it how you want. But for me, the more ratchet and inappropriate and loud, usually the better. Like if I've had a really crappy, I'm like, boss up, right? And so music it shifts me quickly. So when you're in the car, when you're out driving and you happen to pull up on the side of me, act like you don't know me, don't make eye contact, keep driving, because I am sure I'm acting very inappropriately and it's okay. So just act like you don't even see me, just keep driving. So, but no, really, I need to be on. I understand that my energy level affects everything and everybody that comes into my aura, that come in my space. And so even going home to my kids after a long day. And so that works for me. It doesn't matter what your thing is, find one, find out what it is. Because what you can't do is, oh, let me just go in here. I got one more. Like you just don't want to do that. You've got to find a way to make a shift. And it's got to be something that can shift you quickly, that you can go from like maybe the most dull, you just had a consultation and you're like, I don't even know if they like me, let alone they're going to hire me, to now it's the next person. It's like, this is my last appointment. I'm tired. I'm hungry. You need something that's a quick fix. Does that make sense? Coffee can be great, but you don't want that to be your only thing, because sometimes you can't always get to some coffee then usually, right? Like maybe not all the time. And so I want you guys to be thinking of some things. And if it's music, well, I'm gonna just tell you this. Your water, okay? Your water. You in this big bottle. I'm gonna go a little further to say, find a song. Find your song. Because music is so accessible to us. Find a song or two. And you know what would make my day or my week? If you text me sometime today or this week and be like, Crystal, this is my song right here. This is a song that speaks to me, that makes me feel like a badass, that I'm ready to go in here in this appointment, even though 3 people just rejected me. I'm going in here and I'm feeling like a freaking rock star, right? And I would be honored if you shared your song with me, if you took the moment to think about what song gets me up here that just makes me feel amazing, like I can run the world, right? Because music, I'm telling you guys, it's amazing. If you use it properly, you can get out like, whoa, okay? Because people want to see that you're taking them somewhere. That's what you're doing. You're a leader. They want to feel like, I want to feel that energy that this person's got. You walk in like, oh man, I've had such a long day. Once again, they'll feel sorry for you, just may not hire you, right? May not feel like, dang, they may feel like maybe she's too busy. Maybe she doesn't, maybe she's got too much going on and we don't want to bother her. Like, no, right? You guys understanding me on that? And so would love it. You would get brownie points if I get your song. Like I'm just saying, just putting it out there. My last thing with the emotional manager is not comparing yourself. One of the I say it all the time, confidence pays, right? Like confidence is key in sales, period. Right? You being confident, you may not know diddly squat, but you can be confident about, and you'll get people to sign up with you. Like they're like, hey, I want what Steph has. I'm going wherever Jamie's going because it looks like she's going somewhere. Like I just want to get in, right? And so confidence sells, right? One of the things that you can do to disarm your confidence, one of the biggest things you can do to make yourself less confident is to compare yourself. Because I want you to write this down too. Whenever you compare yourself, you will always compare your worst to the other person's best. We always do it. It is just a natural thing. You're going to compare their best to your worst. And is that really fair, right? And so, and the other thing is you don't know their full story or whatever. So when you are looking at other agents, if it's not doing anything other than motivating you, then just stop it. Because it's great to look and see, like, you know what, if she did that or he did that, that means it's been done. And if they did it, there's a good chance I can do it too. I don't know how long it's going to take me, but if they can do it, I can do it too. If it's anything beyond that, you need to shut off the noise, right? Because that means it's being counterproductive. And when your confidence starts to go, so does your sales, so do your yes, so does your pending. Does that make sense? So protect your confidence all day long. That is why you will not hear me talking about what I did wrong a lot. I'm not arrogant, I promise, but it's just I understand that my confidence feeds my kids. And my confidence is what puts them through college, right? And so I'm not going to allow you or anybody else to mess with my confidence because that's how important it is. And that's how I've been able to be great in sales for so long. So protect your confidence and your self-esteem. That is so important. So whatever feeds your confidence, whatever feeds your self-esteem, do more of it. Talking about being a badass. That's why I do that exercise with you guys at the beginning of every one of these meetings when we have a new person. When were you a badass? Because guess what? If you could be a badass before and you've done it, you can be a badass again, right? So what if you haven't been a badass in real estate yet? It's just a matter of time. Everybody just say not yet, right? So it's coming, right? And so not comparing ourselves because we compare their best to our worst and it's not fair, right? What questions? It doesn't matter if it's anything I talked about, it doesn't matter what it is. These last 10 minutes, I want to open up. What are you experiencing out there or in your in your 90-day book, whatever, what is something that anyone feels like, man, I would love you to talk to me about whatever? Natanya is remembering to unmute herself. Go, girl.
Can you remind me, how long does a pre-approval last? Is it 3 months?
Typically, they're 90 days, but sometimes a lender might be very specific on there and say it was like for 30 days, 60 days, but typically 90 days.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good one. Anybody else? Tyler?
On that topic, how can you kind of walk through some ways that you would discuss with clients to jumpstart that pre-approval process? Because I know I had a realtor that I was working with for a really long time, and he never just pushed me into the deep end and said, go get the pre-approval. How do you have that conversation with a client without, just straight up saying or making them do it themselves?
That's awesome. So Tyler, it's very fitting for you to have this question because I don't know if you got a chance to listen. Have you got to start doing that link I sent you guys, doing the new agent training, those YouTube videos?
Yeah, I've watched a lot of them.
Okay, so on the one that I do for buyers, every single buyer, I do not work with anyone without doing a buyer consultation with them. And in that consultation, that is when I go through that, you'll hear my wording, my conversation. It's what I say to every single person. And that is when I'm sitting down explaining the steps and the process to them. That is one of the first things on that list is them. That's the first thing is talking to me. Second thing is getting a pre-approval. And I never have anybody push back on that. And the reason is because it's just part of the process. Does that make sense? And so that's what I do. The answer to that would be doing a buyer consult and you looking at that video and any questions you have regarding that, please let me know. And we'll work through that. But that's one of the things.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And I guess I was thinking of it. Yeah, I was thinking of it more from an informal conversation, but I guess that buyer's consultation altogether is the next step.
So I probably charge on my side more than a lot of agents do. And it was interesting when I did the seller side, one of the experienced agents that was on that training actually made a comment about, when I was explaining what I do with sellers, they were talking about the fee. So what happens is, in general, because it works the same way, buyers or sellers, when you start picking out little pieces of things and trying to deliver it to people, it's like trying to explain selling something that's very expensive or whatever without giving someone the full experience of explaining that. Does that make sense? Like you're picking and choosing things out. It just doesn't go over as well. So I never talk about what I charge as a fee without the seller knowing what their take home is going to be, what their net is. So very rarely do I get anybody to push back on me on my pricing, on my listing agent pricing, because they already know what they're getting and they also know what I'm getting and they know how that's getting split. It's part of a process and I don't pick and choose. I treat everybody pretty much the same. Does that make sense? So when that buyer, I don't say, go get pre-approved and then we're going to talk. It's part of the process. You're going to learn how the whole picture looks. And then it all is like a puzzle and they're like, oh, okay, I get it. That makes sense. So it's about an education piece for you. And the more you do that and get that down, it becomes like butter for you. And then they understand it. When you educate people, they usually understand instead of you telling them, this is what you have to do. They're like, okay, I get it. This makes sense. If I don't do that, then this can affect all these other things.
Absolutely.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I was thinking of it more of like an elevator pitch as opposed to giving someone your full pitch and sitting down and getting over everything. And that makes perfect sense.
Yep. Good one. Because here's the other thing, and I'm not saying, now some people do elevator pitches and it works great for them. So there's more than one way to do real estate, right? Here's my thing. I'm not going to pitch you and then for you to get off and set to go with someone else. I want to relate with you first. I'm not worried about your pre-approval as much as I am with, I want to connect with you. Because what if your pre-approval is bad? What if you can't get anything yet? I want you to know I'm your girl, I'm your person, and I want us to have a relationship so that even if you can't get a house for another year, everybody that comes your way in the process, you're going to refer them to me. You
Mhm.
see what I'm saying? So that
Absolutely.
pre-approval is not holding as much weight as my consultation is.
Mhm.
That kind of, those things go together. That makes
Yep.
sense.
Absolutely.
Thank you for asking that. Anybody else question or comment on that? On anything at all? Nothing? Austin, you're not going to get off the hook, buddy. So remind me, is this your first new agent
Yeah.
one? Okay. So Tyler already did his. Everybody gets to tell one, well, your name, your family, whatever that looks like, where you live, and one time you felt like a badass in your life. And it could have been in kindergarten, last year, whatever, but one time you just felt like a badass, like you really like, yeah. So go for it.
So my name and where I live. And then what was the other one?
Name, where you live, your family, what that looks like, whatever your structure is, and
Yeah.
then your badass moment.
Okay. But I'm Austin. It's nice to meet. I think I've met just about everybody but Jamie and Steph. Tyler and I are
I'm glad he got to meet you
friends
guys.
already. But anyways, I'm Austin. I live with my brother right now up on the north side. I sold a flip that I was working on this past fall. And that was really fun. That's kind of what spurred me on to get my real estate license so that I don't have to be a needy buyer's agent. Since going through the training, I'm realizing how horrible of a client I was. But anyways, and for the family dynamic, it's about all of my family's here in Indianapolis, and we have a family poodle and a family wiener dog that kind of rotates homes between my sister's house, my brother's house, and my parents' house. And so that's always fun. And then a time I feel like a badass, I would say for a fun one, let's see. So in college, there was always, I was always in like nonprofit church stuff before this and in college. And they had always decided that they wanted for their yearly church production to do a really boring, someone comes up to a cross, they cry. Horrible. I hate that stuff. I mean, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that, but I don't know, it's just whatever. So as a 19-year-old, I convinced a friend of mine who had a helicopter to fly his helicopter. And this was a church of, only like 500 or 600 people. Fly his helicopter over the field by the church, and we could invite all sorts of people out. So I had the military come out and we did it for a fundraiser for the support the troops, and then we had vendors, and so anyways, we had about 8,000 kids show up, and I dropped 60,000 Easter eggs out of the helicopter.
Oh
And
my
it was
gosh.
so much fun. And it was just a college age, it was just ran by a bunch of college age. I put my friend in Peter Thorman, made him rappel out of the helicopter. It was really fun.
Nice.
But
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm sure the kids probably thought you were a freaking badass too.
yeah,
Pretty big. Thanks for sharing that, Austin. And so you didn't get to hear me tell Tyler, and I've told everyone else that have ever shared their story of their badass is, if you did it before, you can do it again. Like that was so non-traditional. That was next level thinking. You were thinking big, and those same skills and those same thing that got you to have that kind of result and that kind of success is the same thing that can bring you success into real estate. And so my words to you in closing, Austin, is to remind yourself, if I did it before, I could do it again. Like all the time, remember, if I did it before, I could do it again. Maybe not the eggs, but the success behind it.
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Just saying, right?
That's actually my when you were talking about way to cheer yourself up or whatever, because I'm in situations a lot. What I do is I keep photo albums on my phone. And then I can go through the photo albums of different times, like I've done cool things. And then if ever in a moment where I have to hype myself up, where I can't listen to music, and I'm in a really negative situation, I can
Yeah.
That's
show
a great
myself.
idea. That's
I
really-
love that. Thank you. Thank you. I do not want to keep you guys over. I just, number one, really appreciate. I love when people are come and put their bodies in a space to grow and to learn. And just the fact that you're doing that, I want you to know that sets you above a lot of other agents, a lot of other realtors, period, just in the business. So don't sleep on that. I want you to see that value. You're choosing to do this because you don't have to, it's not required. And so I want you to know that your mental health, your emotional stability, emotional skill set is so important in this business. It is so important. So I hope that you will value it. I hope you make it a priority. And remember that what you choose to focus on really does grow. So choose wisely what you're focusing on, okay? You guys have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you guys soon. And happy graduation, Steph and Jamie, graduating off into the new group. Mwah, mwah, mwah. You guys, talk to you guys soon.